Prisons in paradise. This is unfortunately not a hyperbolic statement. As of October 2024, homosexuality is still illegal in 5 Caribbean countries, and simply being LGBTQ can be enough to land you in prison, with sentences ranging from a decade behind bars all the way up to life imprisonment, depending on the countries we will be covering today. As the Caribbean's winter cruise and vacation season of 2024 to 2025 approaches, millions of people from around the world will be flocking to the warm and idyllic beaches of this diverse region. But for some unlucky few who do not do their research, it could be their last vacation in a very long time. And if that sounds unthinkable, take a moment to consider the daily existence of the tens of thousands of queer individuals who happen to be born into these countries that we will be covering today, countries in which it is a literal crime to simply exist in. And yes, it is crazy to think that in 2024, the Western Hemisphere is still home to such a vile hate and intolerance that the simple act of being gay can land you in prison. But this is the world in which we live, and a world in which change is desperately needed. And so, whether you or someone you know will soon be in the Caribbean, or you simply like to stay informed about important topics facing our community, we will now take a deeper dive into the 5 Caribbean countries where being queer is a crime. The first Caribbean country that everyone should be aware of as an absolute cesspit in terms of queer rights is Grenada. And no, it is not pronounced Grenada as in the Spanish city, but rather Grenada as in grenade. This island country, known by some as the Spice Isle, still criminalizes homosexuality for males, but not for females. In 1974, Grenada gained independence from the United Kingdom, but instead of using its newfound freedom to champion equality and human rights, the country instead decided to do the exact opposite when it amended its criminal code over 10 years later in 1987 to state that male homosexual relationships would be punished with prison sentences of up to 10 years. This is a classic example of local leaders becoming pioneers in bigotry after the end of colonization, and highlights the irony of previously oppressed groups violently oppressing others at their first opportunity to do so. And while many Caribbean islands have thankfully begun to roll back these backwards laws in recent years, like Dominica did at the start of 2024, the fact that so many remain is a tragic disgrace to the cause of equality and freedom. According to Equaldex, only 17% of respondents from Grenada support queer rights, and it is also impossible for trans people to change their legal gender in the country under any circumstance. Like every country on this list, reliable data on how often gay people are arrested in Grenada is hard to come by, but the simple fact that it happens is a terrible injustice that can't be ignored. Hopefully, with enough international pressure, the government of Grenada will realize that opposing human rights is no longer a viable option. Moving north now, we arrive at an island that is a common stop on major cruise lines, but really should not be, considering its abysmal laws and treatment of its LGBTQ population: the country of St. Lucia. In 1979, this island nation gained independence from the United Kingdom, but in a similar fashion to Grenada, the newly formed country committed itself to becoming a champion of bigotry and social regression. 36 years after independence, in 2005, the country made homosexuality for males a criminal offense, with sentences ranging from 5 to 10 years in prison. Changing one's legal gender in the country is also impossible, even with surgery. Furthermore, public opinion data from Equaldex indicates that only 17% of respondents in St. Lucia support LGBTQ rights, which happens to be one of the lowest rates of acceptance in the world. Brave activists are currently fighting to overturn the primitive 2005 law banning male same-sex relationships, but the road ahead is unclear, as the government does not seem to be in any hurry to socially develop. Hopefully in the years to come, St. Lucia will be as beautiful on the inside as it already is on the outside. The next country on this list of shame is the 5th most populated in the Caribbean, and is a cultural titan known worldwide for its food, music, and relaxed lifestyle, but also should be known for its rampant anti-queer hostility and oppression: the country of Jamaica. Unlike other countries on this list, that only became more intolerant after independence, with the passing of subsequent bills criminalizing same-sex relationships, Jamaica entirely inherited its bigotry from an 1864 British law. Thankfully, the UK realized the errors of its ways in 1967 and got rid of its barbaric law, but Jamaica gained independence 5 years earlier in 1962 and decided that it wanted to propagate discrimination by keeping the law even after it was done away with in Britain. To add insult to injury, in 2011, Jamaica banned the future possibility of same-sex marriage, essentially bulletproofing its commitment to prejudice and hate. It also is impossible for trans people to change their legal gender, no matter the circumstance. According to polling data from Equaldex, only 18% of Jamaicans support LGBTQ rights, a number that is notably even lower than countries like Russia at 22% and Saudi Arabia at 25%. Despite its cultural appeal to many and its beautiful natural areas, Jamaica is undoubtedly one of the most dangerous countries in the Western Hemisphere for LGBTQ people, with prison sentences for homosexuality reaching up to 10 years. And since 1997, more than 30 gay men have been killed due to their sexuality. Hatred towards our community is palpable in the country and creates a nearly impossible environment for queer locals. But hopefully in time, international pressure, boycotts from the international LGBTQ community, and continued brain drain from queer Jamaicans fleeing the country will bring about the change so desperately needed. We move southeast now to a country that is not a Caribbean island, but is considered by many to be a Caribbean country nevertheless, and is worth mentioning as it is one of these last 5 countries in the Americas still criminalizing homosexuality in October of 2024, the country of Guyana. Now, just for those who don't think Guyana should be included in this video, I want to mention that back in 1973, it became a founding member of CARICOM, and while it is geographically part of South America, many experts take the position that Guyana is culturally and historically more part of the Anglophone Caribbean than Latin America. Additionally, the official website for the Embassy of Guyana claims that it is a Caribbean country, despite it being in South America. And, considering its dense and nearly impenetrable rainforest surrounding its populated areas, it truly does function as an island of sorts, and is far more connected to nearby Caribbean islands than to the countries it shares land borders with. But regardless of its classification, it is unfortunately one of the few remaining jurisdictions in the Western Hemisphere that still openly persecutes our community, with male same-sex relationships being punished with up to life imprisonment since 1893. After gaining independence from the United Kingdom, the country decided to keep this backwards law, and has been defending it on religious grounds ever since, despite the UK itself adamantly renouncing the nearly 150-year-old law and urging Guyana to do the same and to embrace LGBTQ rights as it has done for decades. But these pleas from its former ruler have fallen on unresponsive ears, and Guyana seems committed to bigotry and continued persecution of our community. Even attempting to change one's legal gender in Guyana is a criminal offense, and until 2018, it was illegal to even put on clothing that was considered stereotypical of the opposite sex. Despite very real risk to personal safety, many brave individuals in Guyana are increasingly fighting for their rights and bringing international attention to the atrocities their government continues to preside over. Decriminalization may still be years away, but keeping pressure on the government and its finances will hopefully one day force it to accept the fact that religious bigotry has no place in any modern society. Before we finish with the final Caribbean country on our list, I want to ask you personally to become a citizen of the Queer Kingdom. Your help fighting for our future and building a strong, informed community is vital in our quest of making the world a safer place for our people. You can officially join the Kingdom here on YouTube for $1 a month, which will help me eventually make this channel my full-time focus as soon as possible. The more time I can spend on content creation, the better I can serve the community. You will also get access to some cute custom queer emojis and epic crown icons next to your comments on this channel that change and evolve the longer you are a member. Also, monthly live streams are always public, but they move to the members-only feed afterwards. And controversial videos covering heavy subjects that are not quite YouTube-friendly are also privately posted for citizens of the Kingdom so that we can all stay informed. And finally, joining the Queer Kingdom here on YouTube gives you the ability to chat with me and fellow members through access to our new Queer Kingdom members Discord. I look forward to meeting you and working with you to create a safe and prosperous world for our people, one step at a time. And now we arrive to the last country on this list of worst Caribbean countries for LGBTQ people in 2024. A country that not only bans male same-sex relationships like the other countries on this list, but even bans them for females as well. The country of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Unlike Jamaica and Guyana, which inherited their bans on same-sex relationships from the UK, St. Vincent and the Grenadines is more like Grenada and St. Lucia in the fact that they passed their own hateful and oppressive laws banning homosexuality in 1990, 11 years after gaining full independence from the UK. In further contrast to the other countries on this list, St. Vincent and the Grenadines explicitly passed a law to include women in this ban, which has to be the most cursed form of equality imaginable. Just this year in 2024, the country's high court upheld its criminalization of homosexuality, leaving activists devastated and an unclear path forward for our community on this island nation. Changing one's legal gender is also completely illegal under any circumstance in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and with only 8% support from the general public, the country has the 11th lowest rate of LGBTQ acceptance on Earth. But, despite legal setbacks in all 5 countries we have covered, the fact that Dominica managed to decriminalize homosexuality this year does give hope to the region that perhaps one day in the future, the entirety of the Americas will have done away with the backwards thinking and religious radicalism that has harmed our community beyond measure. This will only happen, however, when both the governments and people in these 5 countries decide that respect for human rights and equality are more important than their regressive values and Christian extremism. Until then, let's do our best to be wise when planning trips to the Caribbean in order to avoid danger and to refrain from supporting oppressive regimes backed by largely anti-queer populations, all while also advocating for the queer locals in these countries by spreading the word, calling out evil governments, and helping our LGBTQ siblings find safety outside of their oppressive countries. And now, for our queer news story, we have a disgusting show of barbaric hate coming out of Russia, where a group of grotesque Russian police have raided 2 clubs in Moscow in which many queer individuals were known to frequent. Over 50 people were arrested by police in the anti-LGBTQ raids, and many of these innocent people were severely beat and humiliated before then being dragged off to jail. The group of masked police forced all patrons of the club to lay down and be searched, and while in this defenseless position, the police did what Russian police do best to innocent people. Video footage on Telegram that I can't show you here at risk of having the entire video flagged shows a police officer violently kicking an individual already on the ground. While secretly being gay in Russia is technically legal, being open about one's sexuality or gender identity to the wrong person is enough to end up in prison, as are any public displays of queerness. Simply wearing rainbow earrings is enough to attract the wrath of the primitive Russian state and its animalistic leaders. These recent raids are merely another escalation in Russia's war against our community, and the situation seems to be getting tangibly worse by the week. Just 22% of Russian respondents support rights for LGBTQ people, a number even lower than in countries like Iraq, Saudi Arabia, and Pakistan. Even with regime change, Russian society seems united in its hostility towards our community. Let us hope that LGBTQ Russians are able to leave this oppressive country and never look back in order to find safety and to avoid contributing further to what is quickly becoming one of the most evil countries in human history. Thank you, friends, for watching and spending time with me today, as we seek to spread the word about important topics in the community. For those interested, you are more than welcome to stay around and join our increasingly powerful kingdom here on YouTube as we fight for our future. Until next time, QK out.